Okay, we're with filmmaker Yanjia. New York Times Company versus Sullivan is the short film. It's a documentary. It's obviously a New York, it's a American-based civil rights case film, but you're Canadian, correct?
Yes.
So what motivated as a Canadian? I guess do you have an outside perspective of kind of looking in on the American capitalistic free-based society? What was your like? Is that like what motivated you to make this film?
Well, yeah. Originally I was really interested in New York Times and I've been following them for a really long time. And then in this age where there's just so much misinformation and polarization,
Yeah.
I found that we had to like dig out a case that challenged a lot of democratic ideals. And then I felt really strongly about the responsibility to explore the balance between rights and responsibilities. And I wanted to revisit this case because it was one of the milestones in setting the legal foundation towards how we express freedom of speech and what freedom truly means.
So what is the case exactly? Can you explain it in layman's term what the case was about?
Mhm. So the case was about New York Times, and it's this big like newspaper company, and then they would produce a lot of news at the time, and then it was a case against this police officer. His name was Sullivan, and originally, New York Times was charged for this seditious act because the officer said that New York Times was misrepresenting his name and defaming him. And then there was a whole case, and it was brought to the highest Supreme Court in the end to settle like whether or not New York Times did actually defame Sullivan. And in the end, the first round, Sullivan actually won. So New York Times almost got sued, and the company almost like fell apart. But the second round, New York Times was not charged guilty because the defamation was not an actual law. It was more like the officer had more rights. So New York Times was unable to like defend themselves. But alongside a lot of really great pastors, in the end they were able to settle the case without paying like a huge amount of fine and breaking apart the company.
Well, it's like a slander case, I guess, right? Like in terms of like
Mhm.
they felt that like they're because there's journalistic ethics because I
Mhm.
think they just settled they just won a case against Sarah Palin where they basically Sarah Palin they said things about her that weren't true, right?
Mhm.
They were wrong. And then they
Yeah.
basically made an editorial that basically what we said about her was wrong. And then she sued New York Times and she lost because
Yeah.
there's that journalistic editorial kind of free speech etiquette, right? So that's what they have in their pocket. And then slander is like a I guess it's a gray area, right? Because you
Mhm.
you can't tell lies about somebody and then to harm their life, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on the case?
Well, okay, I did a lot of research and I try not to include like bias within my film, but
Sure.
I think that New York Times, like, New York Times was not like they didn't do anything wrong necessarily. They just really said some stuff that really upset Sullivan, and
Yeah.
that's why he brought the whole case up. But I think it's a really important like milestone within history because if this did not happen, maybe like free speech would be even more limited as of right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think New York Times did not necessarily do anything wrong.
They're like legacy media, right? Like
Mhm. Yeah.
they're like well they're a billion-dollar company. I don't think that anything's gonna take them out. Like you wonder because they own other companies. They're like a corporation. So
Hmm.
you feel that they're not gonna go down, I guess, per
Yeah.
se, no matter what, right?
Hmm.
But whereas
Maybe.
other companies in the past, like say like I remember there's a Hulk Hogan thing where he took down a company because they basically showed a video of him in a compromising position. I don't want to get into it, but then everything they said was true. But then he sued and he won, and then that company went under, right?
Yeah.
So, but the New York Times is not going to go under, I one would assume.
Because New York Times is a big company, but like a lot of smaller companies, they don't have as much like
Yeah.
power as the New York Times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would really limit the smaller companies, I guess.
And there's something to, maybe I'm an old fogey, but there's something to legacy media. They call it legacy media that has actual journalists. They're not reacting. They cover they do a story and it takes 6 months, and they dot their T's and cross their I's, and they have more than one source, and etc. That's sort of not we don't that's sort of a losing kind of that's not really happening as much except for these like New York Post, New York Times, which has a lot of money, I guess, behind it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But then there's the quote unquote liberal bias, I guess, right?
hmm I feel like there always is sort of bias, whether or
You think
not like
so?
yeah, what type of
Yeah.
like company it is. So it really like depends on how much power they hold over like the people they're going against, I think.
So like I maybe like I said, I like you fear that you're a journalist, that you're supposed to be unbiased, right? You're supposed to just cover the facts and not
hmm
have that's an editorial. There's a difference between writing a story and writing an editorial,
Yeah.
right?
hmm
But it seems to be every that seems to be gray areaed in because because people are making money by giving their opinions on things, right?
Yeah. I feel like there often is a bias, and like
Okay.
you can't really erase the bias because it's sometimes inherent. Because in a lot of editorials, like people can't really erase what they believe and their moral values like carry in, and then they have like bias, but it really depends on how you perceive what people are telling you.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I try as a what I do is that I try to be as unbiased as I can. Like just look at things, look at the storytelling as it is, and not try to maybe subconscious. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But so you like so then it's but then you hope that someone's going to cover a story, then there is just going to be the facts, I guess.
hmm Yeah.
So where did you go to school? Is this a school project?
Yeah, it was kind of like more of an interest project, but my school talks a lot about it, so that's where I got the idea from.
Okay. And what
hmm
school is that?
I go to St. Clement's School. It's this all-girls school in Toronto. Yeah.
Like a private school?
Yeah. It's really small. It
Yeah.
has like 500 students from grades 1 to 12.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boys and it's all girls, right?
It's all girls, yeah.
Okay. And what are they? And it's like it's like you're still in high school.
Yeah, I'm still in high school. I'm going into senior year next year.
Okay. But aren't you supposed to be in school now?
Well, we're on break. It's summertime, so
Oh, you're already done. You're already done school.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking like my kids are in grade school. They're still at school, right? So
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna go. Is filmmaking something you want to do? Want to be?
Well, yeah. I'm not really sure as of right now.
Okay.
hmm
Journalism.
Probably. I really like that.
And what do you think? And what? But there's that's like. But you're writing a. It's almost like writing a book in a sense. You're writing a story. You're making a movie, but it's still journalism, I guess, right? A documentary.
Yeah. I like to write like pieces as well, like not movies. This was actually my first time creating like a film, so it was like
Okay.
something new for me. And um in our school we have this newspaper. It's called the Clementines, and I'm the editor for that. So it
Oh
really like
wow.
yeah, it sparked my interest in trying to do like journalism and edit stuff. Like it's so interesting.
Where can we read this book? Is it online?
Um
Oh, sorry. This
magazine.
magazine. Yeah.
This magazine, it's not online because it's like a school like newspaper, but I could probably, I don't know, it's just posted in our school like community like thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So then what are you going to go to university for like journalism or film?
Yeah, I'm thinking of going to university for journalism.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe I'll study something related to like film as well as a minor, probably.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And what is the and so you're like you're it's funny your generation has always had social media. You don't know a world without social media.
Yeah, like a lot of my friends and peers, they constantly get information from social media,
Yeah.
and half of it is not true. So it really like distorts what the truth actually is.
But the algorithm is gearing you for what you believe in, I guess.
Yeah, and like there's this thing, what's it called? It's like bait or something, like headlines. You read this first headline and it's very catchy, and then you're tempted to read more. But
Yeah.
sometimes that headline, it catches your attention and it tells you a lot of false information, or like it exaggerates stuff
Yeah.
that's not necessarily true. So that's like a huge problem right now.
So what do you think the future is like for someone in your generation, the future of like social media? Do you see it shift? Do you see people leaving it or you're just addicted and you can't get off of it ever?
Yeah, I think especially with like AI, like there's so much stuff that just can be like created, and it's all like half of it is false. But I think that in the future, like there's gonna be something new that's even more like addictive. There's gonna be like something that's going off of social media, because obviously we can't ditch social media right now because of how much we have put into it and how much we rely on it on like a daily basis. And it's just like constantly everywhere trying to catch like our attention. So yeah.
What social media do you use?
Well, I use like Instagram sometimes, but I like try to stay off of TikTok.
Isn't that your generation's social media?
It kind of is, but like I try to stay off of it as much as I can because I think like doom scrolling, that's so bad. It's such a waste of time.
So then, okay, so would you what else do you use? Like Twitter or anything else? Facebook?
No, I don't think anyone really uses like Facebook or Twitter as much.
Yeah. Like you're
Yeah.
in your kind of
Yeah, in my
generation.
generation, yeah.
You've heard of Blue Sky?
Blue sky?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. It's like an alternative, like a more liberal alternative. Well, it's turning into that to X to Twitter, I guess, right?
Oh, okay.
But it's not toxic yet, and it's
Oh,
not owned by
okay.
anybody, so it's basically there's
Mhm.
no ownership. Like it's kind of like one of those I don't know the correct term, but basically it's like a free flowing web that's there's like so instead of have like say Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk owns a social media and they can influence something. There's nothing like that with Blue Sky, so I think that's what needs to
Oh,
happen,
yeah.
right? So, but it's good to see that you're not going on Facebook or Twitter. I like that because
Yeah.
those are the two most toxic. Toxic. What about LinkedIn? You ever go on LinkedIn? I know it's not really true social media, but
Yeah, I do go on LinkedIn and like I have my own page and whatnot, but I feel like LinkedIn, it's just like you're trying to connect with a lot of people. You're just trying to make connections, but are they really genuine at the end of the day? Like if you just press connect with someone, is it really gonna work out? It's like a coffee chat where they have like those business majors going around to meetings and like trying to connect with people. I don't think it's very genuine, in my opinion.
like in terms of like
Like,
like wanting to help somebody or wanting to like really connect. Like, does anybody really want to connect with anybody?
yeah, exactly. Like, if you don't know someone and then they connect with you on LinkedIn, is it really gonna help you guys connect?
No, no. It's just
Yeah,
about getting more connections. Just
yeah,
like just like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram,
true.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what it is, right? So
Yeah, but people try to build like actual relationships off of them. Like you're not gonna find your future like employer off that. Maybe you
yeah.
would, but it's like I feel like it's not genuine. And like a lot of people in my generation would not use LinkedIn as like a good source to really connect with other people. It's just like,
But do you have like a job, or what are you doing this summer?
well, I don't have a job and I'll be traveling this summer, but I'll be like volunteering.
So
And
you're
then,
lucky then. You're one of the lucky ones.
well, yeah, I used to have a job. I used to teach like piano because it's fun, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't like, yeah, I wouldn't like work my whole summer because I think like I'm still at the age where I can do some stuff I like before I get into like working.
Yeah, gotcha. That's what if you have the opportunity, I 100% that's a great idea. Kind of figure out who you are in a sense.
Yeah.
So this is something that you get, it's like a 5 minute film you kind of made. Could you make it with AI?
Well, probably I could.
No, didn't you? I'm saying, did you make your film
Oh,
with AI?
no.
Okay, what you made it just with visuals?
Yeah, I
You
made it with
found, okay.
like I just found like the pictures and yeah, it took me a really, really long time to make it actually. It took me way longer than expected.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I made it like from scratch, like everything.
gotcha.
Hmm.
And then so that's just because this case, like, so what do you think that is gonna like are you more optimistic about the future of journalism, or like what's your opinion?
Well, I am optimistic because I believe that there's always gonna be like hope in this. Like it's gonna all turn out fine because like even though there is like misinformation, people can avoid it to a certain degree, so it's not gonna like be terrible in the future. And we rely on it very heavily, like the news and whatnot. So it has to stay alive. It can't just like stop.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what about Canada? Where do you see this? Do you like, are you going to stay in Canada?
Um, I might move to the States in the future for university, but
Okay.
yeah, as of Canada, I feel like Canada is really peaceful and there is misinformation, but there's not like it's not as biased to some degree because there's not I don't know, there's not as much bias going on in my opinion.
Got it. In the States or in Canada?
Canada in
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's less people, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So before we leave you, we always ask people, we asked you in the blog interview that you did for us, that what movie have you watched the most times in your life? Do you remember what you said?
What movie?
Yeah. What movie you watched the most times in your life? You answered the question. Do you remember what you said?
I don't remember.
You don't
I
remember?
think the most movie I've watched,
The movie you watched the most times.
um, yeah, I don't remember, but I think it's this movie. It's called Spirited.
Okay.
Mm. It's about like this. It was about this horse. It was like,
No, I remember the movie, yeah. But
yeah,
you didn't say that. You didn't say
I
that
didn't say
in the
that.
blog. You said the post.
The Post.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's true to some degree, but Spirited is like the actual movie that I watched like so many times.
Yeah.
I played it on repeat like for a really long time when I was younger. It was so good.
So then that's the truthful answer. You're just giving the journalistic, like the post is a journalistic film, right? So
Yeah. It
gotcha.
is, yeah. I watch it like twice maybe. That's not the most I've watched though.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So and then so you're gonna do one more year of school, and then you're gonna figure out where you're gonna do obviously right away you're gonna figure out what universities you're gonna apply to and figure out what you can do with your life, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is the final stretch. One
Yeah.
more year. Yeah.
Talk to anybody in their 30s and 40s and see what they're doing for a living, successful people. Because I'm assuming you want to be success. I'm talking about like financially, etc. And ask them what they're doing and see what if they went to school for that.
Do they not?
A lot of them, like you'd be surprised because like sometimes you just like, well, no, you what you do is just you kind of go down a path and you work your butt off, and then when you work your butt off, you go down a path, things just to happen, and all of a sudden you end up somewhere that you never expected, and then
Hmm.
you're doing a job that you never went to school for. So
Yeah, I've heard that happen.
it,
And yeah,
it
kind
happens
of
a lot.
daunting. Yeah.
So the moral of the story is that is just enjoy the ride, enjoy like is your only the wait. You ever heard the cliche that the youth is wasted on the youth?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Because of course we
Okay.
all want to go back. We all want to go back to your age,
Okay.
and not be so scared and insecure and worried about stuff. Like just be free and kind of do what you want. Because you know what, nothing really matters in the grand scheme of it. You think it does, but it doesn't. It just
Okay.
you don't if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it
It
does
doesn't
make
matter.
sense. Yeah.
Even you ever think of a conflict and then like nobody remembers anyway. See, even if you make a fool of yourself, nobody remembers the next week. So
Yeah.
just be yourself.
Okay.
All right. That's the words, the wisdom of the day.
That's great
Don't
advice.
stop. All right. Well, let's talk again when you make your next film. I want to see you make another film.
Yeah, I might make a new one, but not recently, maybe in a month or so.
Okay, cool. I like to see it. So let's keep in touch.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.